How one prenup conversation saved me from a toxic marriage. I asked my fiancé for a prenup. Everything fell apart. I, 29M, was engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years, 26F. I proposed last December. Everything was perfect, until I brought up the idea of a prenup. I honestly thought it would be a normal, mature conversation between two adults planning a life together. I work in tech, make around $85,000 a year, and have been saving and investing since I was 22. Thanks to consistent saving, about $1,500 a month, and some good stock picks, I've built a decent financial cushion. My student loans are almost paid off. She's a teacher earning around $45,000. She spends most of her paycheck every month, clothes, brunch, hanging out with friends. Nothing irresponsible per se, but she's not a saver. And that's fine, we've always kept our finances separate. Or we did, until I brought up the idea of a prenup. We were having dinner, and I casually said, "Hey, I think we should consider a prenup. Just to protect both of us. It's not about expecting anything bad, just being smart." She laughed. Straight up laughed and said, "Prenups are for rich people. Celebrities. We're not rich enough for that." I tried to explain that it's not just about being rich. It's about protecting what each person brings into the marriage and setting clear expectations. That's when her expression changed. "What exactly do you need to protect from me?" So I told her about my savings and investments. Her face went from surprise to calculating. And that's when everything shifted. Suddenly she started talking about combining our finances after we get married so we could pay off her student loans and build our life together. I told her, exactly, that's why a prenup is important. So we can agree together how to manage finances. She got upset. Said I was accusing her of being a gold digger. Said love is about trust, and that if I wanted legal protection from her, I must not really love her. No matter how I explained it, she kept framing the prenup as me planning for divorce. I even said she could put in whatever she wanted to protect herself, too. Didn't matter. Then she said her mom and sister agreed with her. That a prenup was insulting. That I was being hurtful, paranoid, and weird about money. And here's the kicker. The next day, she texted me saying she'd sign the prenup if I agreed to pay off her student loans after marriage. Add her name to the house I plan to buy next year. Split all household expenses 50-50, despite our income difference. Agree to her having primary custody and full child support if we ever divorced. I was stunned. That's not compromise. That's negotiation, with my savings as the prize. She'd gone from mocking prenups to suddenly hiring her own lawyer, a family friend of her sister's who apparently told her that most men who want prenups are either hiding assets or planning to cheat. She said I was being selfish. But all I could see was someone planning her financial exit strategy before we even walked down the aisle. We met up to talk again, and she came with a full list of her own prenup demands. She wanted to split any house we buy 50-50, even if I put the entire down payment from my pre-marriage savings. She wanted the right to keep her pension, while still having access to my investments. She also wanted full custody and financial support, because she'd be sacrificing her career more. When I pointed out that the whole point of a prenup is to keep premarital assets separate, she called that unfair, and said it made her feel like she was entering the marriage at a disadvantage. At that point, I realized we weren't just having a difference of opinion. We had fundamentally different values about trust, money, and what a partnership means. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. That Friday night, my buddy saw her at a bar with another guy. They weren't sitting like friends. He sent me a photo. She was leaning into him, laughing, touching his arm. They left together and kissed in the parking lot before driving off in the same car. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to see what she'd do. We met Sunday for dinner. She was all dressed up and calm and said maybe we should take a break to think about whether we're really compatible. Said the prenup fight showed her we might have rushed into the engagement. I asked her if there was someone else. She denied it, of course. I told her someone had seen her kissing another man. She got defensive, said he was just a friend. I asked if he knew she was engaged. She said yes, but he understood her situation and was being supportive. So, she wasn't cheating. She was just emotionally collapsing into the arms of a new guy named Todd the doctor. Right. That was the end of it. I said we should call off the wedding. She agreed and sent me a spreadsheet the next day of all the vendors, deposits, and cancellation fees. Organized. Polite. Businesslike. I told her I'd eat the deposit losses just to end this cleanly. She said, "Thanks. That's generous." 3 years together, 6 months engaged, and it ended with a spreadsheet. Looking back, I'm glad I asked for that prenup. Not because it protected me legally, but because it revealed the truth. Her attitude completely changed once she knew how much I had. She went from, "We don't need legal protection," to, "Pay off my debt and give me half the house." I don't think she started dating me for money. But once she knew it was there, her expectations shifted, fast. And I saw a side of her I can't unsee. If asking for a prenup ruins your relationship wasn't built on the kind of trust you thought it was. Lesson learned. And yes, I took the ring back. Part 2, I didn't lose her. I lost an illusion. The funny thing is, I thought I'd be heartbroken. I thought ending a 3-year relationship and calling off a wedding would crush me. That I'd be a mess, lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling like the intro of a sad indie movie. But I wasn't. I felt calm, clear, almost relieved. Because once the fog lifted, I realized something brutal but honest. I wasn't in love with her, I was in love with who I thought she was. Who I hoped she'd be. The partner I imagined in my head. Not the one who panicked when I wanted a basic legal agreement, then ran into the arms of Dr. Todd over margaritas. Let's recap the final red flags in case anyone's keeping score at home. As soon as money was on the table, her entire demeanor changed. She weaponized the concept of trust to pressure me into not protecting myself. She made emotional blackmail sound like wedding vows. And when she didn't get her way, she outsourced her validation to a guy in scrubs. What's wild is that her original argument was, prenups are for people who expect divorce. But she started planning her exit strategy the second she didn't like mine. What I learned, so you don't have to live it. Talk about money early. Like, early. First date is probably too soon. But before a proposal? Mandatory. If someone treats financial transparency like an insult, that's the red flag, not the prenup. A prenup isn't about distrust. It's about clarity. If the mere mention of a prenup brings your relationship to its knees, it wasn't that strong to begin with. You don't set a house on fire just because someone checks the smoke alarm. People's reactions to boundaries are always the biggest reveal. I didn't accuse, threaten, or manipulate. I made a calm, thoughtful request. Her reaction wasn't calm or thoughtful. It was strategic. Trust actions, not words. "I would never betray you" is cheap. Blocking you on social media while dating a new guy before your wedding is also cheap, but more revealing. If someone only respects your position after consulting a lawyer, it's not respect. It's strategy. She didn't compromise. She negotiated. With emotion and manipulation dressed up as fairness. Where I'm at now. I'm not bitter. I'm just not naive anymore. She wasn't the one. She was the test before the one. The boss battle before the next level. And yeah, I lost about $3,000 in deposits, a ring, and what's left of my faith in brunch teachers who say, "Let's split things 50-50, but mean, you pay, I vibe." But I got my freedom. I got my savings. And I got a front row seat to what happens when you ask a seemingly simple question and watch someone expose themselves. No wedding. No shared house. No legal ties. Just a clear exit, and a prenup still safely and used in a Google Drive folder, waiting for someone who understands it's not a weapon. It's a tool. The story's over, but the lesson isn't. Want to get married? Cool. Want to protect yourself legally? Smarter. Want to do both? Totally possible, if you're with someone who's not secretly applying to upgrade from you to a dude named Todd the minute you talk finances. Trust me, you don't need a spouse who makes you feel like a villain for being responsible. You need one who says, yeah, let's protect each other. Let's build something that lasts. And if it doesn't, let's make sure we're both okay. That's love. Not spreadsheets and ultimatums and parking lot kisses with mystery physicians. Part 3, what I did after the breakup, so I could start acting like myself again. You know that moment after a storm when everything's weirdly quiet? That was me after it all ended. Just sitting in my apartment with a cancelled wedding, a returned engagement ring, and the slow realization that I had no more texts to send, no more fights to defuse, no more gaslighting to dodge. It was over. Finally. And you'd think that would be a relief. And it was. But also, it left this massive silence. No more talking about floral arrangements I didn't care about. No more mental gymnastics every time we discussed finances. No more wondering what new version of selfish I'd be called for having savings. So, what did I do? Honestly, not much at first. I didn't go on some wild, revenge body gym arc. I didn't download dating apps or fly to Tulum or impulsively buy a motorcycle. Yet. Instead, I did the one thing that never lied to me, I opened Excel. I reviewed my finances. I rebalanced my portfolio. I finally moved that old IRA into something with better fees. I canceled wedding vendors like I was conducting an orchestra of financial liberation. I changed my passwords. I backed up my photos. I packed her stuff neatly and left it at the door. And then, and this is crucial, I got very still. I sat with it. All of it. The betrayal. The manipulation. The fact that I missed red flags because I wanted to believe in us. I journaled. Not because I'm deep. But because my brain was spinning and I needed to dump thoughts somewhere that wasn't a group chat. Group chats are chaotic and prone to sending memes when you're clearly trying to vent. And somewhere in the middle of one of those late-night reflection marathons, I realized this. I didn't lose love. I lost a negotiation disguised as a relationship. She wasn't building a partnership. She was drafting a merger. And when the deal terms didn't suit her, she looked for better investors. Preferably ones with lab coats and six-figure salaries. So no, I didn't spiral. I rebuilt. Quietly. Privately. Precisely. What I did next, on purpose. I got therapy. Not because I was broken. But because I wanted to understand why I tolerated certain behavior for so long. Spoiler, if you were raised to be the stable one, you'll attract people who want to ride your stability like it's a water slide. I took a solo trip. Nothing fancy. Just a weekend in the mountains. Just me, some trees, and the cold indifference of nature, which, honestly, was more comforting than being told I don't know how to trust. I changed how I talk about money in relationships. From now on, it's upfront. No shame. No weirdness. If you're uncomfortable talking about savings, debt, or future goals, we're not going to be compatible, no matter how good the chemistry is. I started saying no faster. No to people who confuse love with control. No to guilt trips wrapped in affection. No to anyone who calls basic boundaries unromantic. I let go of the idea that it was my fault. That one took a while. But I got there. And yeah, I kept the prenup draft. I renamed the file. It's now titled, "In Case They Love Me But Not My Balance Sheet." One day, I'll date again. I'm not in a rush. But next time, I won't be afraid to protect myself. Because here's the truth. You can be generous without being a doormat. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can love someone and still say, let's be smart. If that makes me too cautious, fine. I'd rather be too cautious than too trusting of someone who sees my savings as a starter pack. Dating again after walking away from the wedding that never was. So, after all that, after spreadsheets, surprise lawyers, emotional betrayal, and that bar kiss with Dr. Todd, still not over the fact that his name is Todd, I eventually decided to start dating again. And by decided, I mean, my friends badgered me into making a dating profile and then sat around my phone like it was a halftime show. Here's what I learned re-entering the dating world post-engagement apocalypse. 1. People will say, "You're such a catch," like it's helpful. It's meant to be comforting. But mostly it just reminds you that your last relationship was a dumpster fire and somehow you still stayed in it for 3 years. Yes, I have savings. Yes, I'm responsible. No, that doesn't mean I'm immune to emotionally manipulative women with student loan debt and a Pinterest board named Our Future Home Smiling Face with Hearts. 2. Dating apps are something else. Tinder is a wasteland. Bumble is a motivational poster factory. Hinge is for people who call themselves sapiosexuals, unironically. Also, just ask me anything, as a bio. Okay, do you understand what a prenup is and why it's not an insult? No response. Thought so. One girl unmatched with me when I said I believe in financial transparency. Another told me she thought prenups were emotionally manipulative. My therapist would call that a self-cleaning oven moment. 3. My standards are higher now. Maybe annoyingly so. And not just financially. I'm talking about how people respond to boundaries, honest questions, and the sentence. I've been engaged before and ended it for good reasons. Some people look at you like you're damaged. Others, the good ones, nod like they get it. Those are the ones I keep talking to. 4. I don't try to be impressive anymore. I don't hide what I've built. But I also don't lead with it. You want to know what's really hot to me now? Someone who budgets. Someone who says, I have my own savings. Someone who doesn't think, your money is our money, the second there's a ring on their finger. I'm not looking for a trophy. I'm looking for a teammate. Preferably one who doesn't kiss Todd in a parking lot while quoting her sister's divorce attorney. 5. Healing isn't loud. It's boring. It's choosing not to text your ex when you feel lonely. It's making dinner for yourself instead of staring into your fridge like you're auditioning for a depression commercial. It's seeing someone new, and not projecting all your ex's mistakes onto them. It's subtle. Quiet. Not cinematic. But it feels honest. So yeah, I'm dating again. Cautiously. More aware. Less apologetic. I know what I bring to the table now. And more importantly, I know I don't owe anyone a seat at it just because they smiled, or cried during the prenup conversation, or tried to negotiate their way into my mortgage with zero equity. That version of me, the one who confused love with obligation, got left behind with the wedding deposits. This version? Still single. Still selective. But smarter. Stronger. And, let's be honest, kinda done with people who treat responsibility like a personal attack.